Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kick Conflict to the Curb, the place that growth-minded people come to either advance their career, learn new conflict resolution skills, or advance their own communication strategies. I'm your host, Joyce Weiss, communication coach and queen of conflict resolution. And HR professionals send their direct reports to me so that their managers and leaders can improve relationships and reduce stress. So how do I do this, you may ask? Well, they transform from not knowing how to start a conversation to feeling confident using their voice without losing their cool. And I always bring thought-provoking leaders to this show because that's what it's about. And I'm looking so forward to interviewing my guest today. I had a chance to speak with him a couple times, and I would like to introduce you to him. Jeff Cox has spent 7 years in the realm of higher education and recently left the field to explore the field of HR. Jeff currently holds 2 degrees, a bachelor's in communication and graphic design, and a master's in higher education. Jeff currently has a dog named Ollie and is a self-named nerd. He also hosts his podcast about stories of other people. Here's a fun fact about Jeff. He currently works at a coffee shop and prepares his lattes at home. Welcome to the show, Jeff. Hey.
Hey, Joyce, how are you?
I am geeked, as they say, because we're going to have a good time.
I'm excited.
Well, I hope you are, because I sure am. And what's fascinating, let's just start with your fun fact, because that is a fun fact. Jeff Cox, empathetic leader, easy for you to say. Talk to us about your coffee.
Yeah. So it's funny because during COVID, a couple of my buddies and I had talked about opening our own shop and really just started exploring what coffee was all about. And so unfortunately, we didn't end up going down that pathway, but I was able to find myself working at another coffee shop and just learning a ton about it. And so one of the fun things that a lot of people don't know is that like the coffee bean is actually the pit from a cherry. And the way that it gets its flavor is the way that it's actually washed and processed.
Well, like I said, people come to my show to learn. Well, I learn a lot. Well, thank you for that. I love coffee still. So you call yourself, it's right there on the screen, it's right there on LinkedIn, an empathetic leader. That is your title. So talk to us about what that means and why those 2 words are next to your name, Jeff Cox.
Yeah, absolutely. I think honestly, the reason that I use that, I think, so frequently is because when I was a student going for my undergraduate degree, like I had professionals and staff members that like truly invested in me and invested in my story and my goals and what I wanted to do. They took chances on me. And so I've translated that. And so, when I was working in higher education, the way that I always approached my staff members and my team members were investing in them, right? Like we all bring different stories to the table. We all bring different perspectives and ideas. And if we are working and supervising or building them the exact same way as the person next to them, like we're not doing them justice. Like we all operate differently and have different goals. And so different things are going to work for us. And so for me, it's getting to know what that foundation is for them and then building off of that and moving forward.
Wow. So here you had that own experience, and now you're taking those skills that you saw other people do to you and transform them to your direct report, to your employees. So boy, I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people better be watching this show. I'm serious. And Now, the title, the theme, we actually had two themes because you
Yep.
wanted to talk about micromanaging. And then another topic.
Mhm.
Let's talk about micromanaging. Why was that the number one thought for us to talk about today?
Yeah. I mean, I think a big part of it is because we see it way too often in our work environments. I have, unfortunately, I don't want to say been victim to it, but I've been exposed to having leaders that are micromanagers. Like, I have had staff members who I've gone on to supervise who have told me about their experiences with individuals that micromanage the way that they did their work. And I feel like if you are in a realm where micromanaging is taking place, then typically that supervisor, boss, whatever, doesn't have that full trust in you to be able to do what you need to do. There's some sort of like, I need this to be the way that I want it to be, and not necessarily we brought you on because you have this experience and we trust the way that you can do this yourself and still give us the quality work that we want to see.
Yes. Now, I just read an article and it said that not all micromanagers, some of them fit what you just described.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I've heard this from my own coaching clients, but also many of them don't even know they're doing it. I know that's giving them an excuse, but
Mhm.
it could be that way. So what advice would you give, Jeff, to someone watching this who
Yeah.
has a micromanager? Maybe they don't have the direct communication skills that they would want to have, but they can't
Mhm.
take it anymore and they don't want to quit. What
Yeah.
is one thing they could do?
So obviously, my biggest thing that I always hold back to is having that honest communication with them.
Okay.
Right. I think that oftentimes as individuals we fear and we try to run away from any sort of um, oh gosh, what's the word I want to use? Um, I'm blanking on the word,
That's
but
okay.
bring it to the forefront, right? Like, we don't like to have those conversations. We don't like to have conflict. That's probably a better word for that. And so we try to avoid those conversations because we don't know how they're going to end. And
Mhm.
so I think that's what I would say is, if you're in a place to be able to have that open and honest conversation with them, definitely talk to them about that. But even if, like, you say you have a performance evaluation coming up, talking about, okay, like, what are things that you believe that I can do better? Or what are things that we can do to improve this relationship with us, or for me to meet the needs that you feel like I may not be hitting? And it's, as people, we don't always like to hear that feedback. Sometimes it's going to be hard feedback, but
Mhm.
that's only going to make us better individuals at the end of the day.
I love that. Meaning, it's not that it is hard for people who don't like having those tough
Mm.
conversations. I'm not demeaning that at all. How you started it, it almost sounds so natural. Performance review. It wasn't great in one area. Bring it up to that
Mm-hmm.
micromanager. How can I improve so I meet your expectations?
Mm-hmm.
I like the way you said it better, Jeff. So that's
Thank you.
yeah, you're very welcome. That's why you're here. So that is great. Thank you for that.
Of course.
And anything else about the empathetic leader that, and yep, trust me, I've got a bunch of questions here, but I don't want to stop you if you've got
Yeah.
anything else to say about
I
this or.
mean, I think the biggest thing, and the way that I like to really think about, I think those two specifically together, is if you are having those foundational conversations and getting to know and building that rapport with those individuals, naturally that trust is going to build over time. I mean, I always follow the old adage, like, I'm going to trust you until you give me a reason not to. And I sometimes that's really hard when, especially when you're trying to coach individuals to get to a certain point. But at the end of the day, like, you also, have brought them into this position because of what you saw in them and because of what you feel like they could offer.
Yes.
And sometimes, like, yeah, if you are in charge of hiring people or you're supervising people,
Mhm.
sometimes those individuals that you see that are so great at the beginning, like, they turn out not to be. And like, I think that's part of that experience and learning and helping provide that growth opportunity with them as a whole. So
yes, and you said something that I want to throw it right back at you. They were your words, right? I'm going to throw it right back at you. Let's say you've got this micromanager, and you were hired because you were told because of XYZ. And then this micromanager, whatever reason, whether he or she doesn't trust you, whether it's an issue that he or she has and not necessarily you, why can't you as the employee say, I know I was hired because of these skills, and I feel frustrated when I'm not able to do them. How can I earn your trust? I want you to, how could you fix what I just said even better? Or do you like,
I mean, again, I think that depends on the conversation and the relationship that you have. I think it's definitely going to be more difficult to have that conversation if you've been in your position for like a week or, less than 2 months. Like, I think time is very relative in that perspective of understanding how to approach those conversations. And again, like that foundational kickoff, whether it's a one-on-one, whether it's in training, whether it's that first week, like that should really be a focal point on how are you connecting with, someone you supervise, or how are you connecting with the person that's supervising you, because that's going to establish that whole relationship and that whole communication expectation moving forward.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. And for those watching, and Jeff, for you may not know this, but what I do is I send the video of the interview to someone who helps me, and they take out little chunks like for social media. And what you just said, that's going to be one of the, well, instead of chunk, how about if I actually say the right word, the video clip. So thank you for that. So you also said to me, Joyce, I also want to talk about the value of work. No one has said that to me yet. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think it all comes together. And I think they all play a big part because, what I'm seeing and what I have seen in my own career is oftentimes employee satisfaction or your own satisfaction starts to dwindle, especially when, you are doing so much work, or when you are doing what you believe is quality work and you don't get that feedback. You continue to do it, and then later down the road, whether it's a performance evaluation or whatever, they tell you, oh, well, you could have done this differently, right? And I think that when we as humans, we like to be praised, we like to receive that positive feedback, so that gives us more motivation to continue to do that work and continue to do X, Y, and Z. And if we don't have that, we aren't going to have that motivation to want to continue to put in all the effort that we are. And it's funny because you can go on LinkedIn and just scroll through, and you're going to see people talking about quiet quitting. And, that I think is a big part of it, is because people aren't getting that feedback, or they're not getting that like satisfaction that they're doing something meaningful or that it's making a difference. And I know that, a lot of fields are, scraping for people, or they're doing so much that they're doing multiple people's jobs and they don't have that time. But your employee satisfaction is just as important as your customer satisfaction, or just as important as, like the profit almost, if that's what you're focused on in your field. So.
Oh gosh, yes. Standing ovation. Yay. So now what I see on LinkedIn, on Facebook, all of the social media platforms, people are looking for employers need employees. Fine, we know that. But are they looking at the mirror? Are they looking at the camera and saying, what can we do about it? Let's take a look at our managers. Maybe I'm not into firing unless you really have to. So that's not what this next statement is. Maybe they need some training. Maybe they need to have that tough conversation by their higher ups. And what you just said about your people that they need, that human beings we need, that
Mm-hmm.
you belong here. And let me tell you why. It's
Yeah.
not hard, but yet if you've never done it, it's got to become a habit. So
Yeah.
thank you for this. So now, tough conversations. Have you ever had to have a tough conversation with a direct report?
Yeah. I've actually had to have multiple tough conversations. And for context, like I have spent 7 years supervising student leaders, and when you are in a place of working with individuals who this may be their first job, or
Mhm.
this may be their first experience even having these conversations, it always takes them aback because they don't know what to expect. I think that traditionally when we receive notice, hey, we want to have a conversation with you, or we want to talk about this, like we want to withdraw. Like that is like, at least for me, I'm like, okay, well, does this mean like I'm in trouble? Am I going to be fired? And maybe that's like the experiences and upbringing that I've had, but we're taught that failure is something that we shouldn't welcome, and that's not always the case. And so the tough conversations that I often have with my employees is, listen, it's okay to fail. Like it's okay to make these mistakes, but like what can we do to make sure this isn't a reoccurring thing? Like how are we moving forward from this? And if it continues to happen, then yeah, we're going to continue to have this conversation, and at some point, like I'm gonna have to stop holding your hand, and you're gonna have to understand that we've had these conversations over and over, and sometimes this position just isn't the best position for you, and those are not fun
Wow.
conversations, especially with students who may need what the job provides, um, and so the tough conversations are going to happen. It's just how you approach them. Like it doesn't have to be like accusatory. Like
Mhm.
it's important to get their side of the story as well.
And again, the way you did this, no wonder why it's empathetic leader, is that especially with the younger people who have, maybe they came from a home where they weren't told, what, mm, uh, that life isn't perfect and you've got to
Mm-hmm.
go and make mistakes, and oh, you're
Yeah.
fine, so how you do that is, yay, what you said, I'm just reiterating, and you tell me, yeah, you got me or you didn't, is that let them know when they make a mistake that that's part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let's learn from them. Yes, we're going to have another tough conversation if the same mistake is made, and we're really going to have to find out if this job is right for you. You're
Mm-hmm.
setting up your expectations, Mr. Empathetic Leader.
Yep.
So how did you get, because you brought up something about your upbringing, and if you don't
Yeah.
want to, don't, but did you come from an upbringing where this empathy was just part of it, or if not, we can skip.
So it's interesting. So I'm an only child. So I grew up with just high expectations. I think just from like my family. I originally went to college to be an anesthesiologist. Obviously, that didn't work out, and I like to blame that on my personality, not because I didn't know how to study, but um, it is. I think just the way that my like mom would always approach conversations with me, like I was very much like, you know, given the reins to be able to do things, and if
Mhm.
I failed, like she was very much so, okay, like how do you take this and move forward? Like this
There
isn't
you
the end of the
go.
world. And from what I've seen from a lot of students that I've supervised is, if they got a B, or they got a C, like their parents would ground them, or they would tell them they can't do X, Y, and Z. And I'm not here to tell people how to raise their kids. Like that's not
No,
what
of
I'm
course,
trying to
that's
do.
not.
But
No,
like
you're not.
There are things that we unlearn as we get older, and that's one of those things is that it's okay to fail, and those are the moments that we learn the most, I think, about ourselves, and I think I learned that kind of from an early age, just based on experiences and based on, I think, just the way that, my mom and dad, brought me up.
Oh, so they gave you a gift. So
Mhm.
that empathy, um, it was there. You make mistakes.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from it? And look, you're doing the same thing. So yeah, I had to ask, and that's a risk for me because sometimes people will say, Joyce, I am like I am, despite my upbringing. So
Yeah.
yay. So if you were to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, I don't know your choice, with me one day,
Yeah.
what would you ask Joyce Weiss?
Oh man, that is a great question.
Thank you.
Honestly, I think one of the biggest things for me, and you kind of mentioned this in the opening, is I like to just know what has gotten people to where they are today. Like if there was like one or two defining moments for them that you could look back on and be like, okay, like this is one of the most important things in my life that has made me who I am. Like those are the things that I like to know. Like not a fan of small talk. I love like the idea of big talk and having these deep questions. So yeah, it really would be, if you were to like define one or two moments that made you who you are or got you where you are, like what would
Wow.
those be?
Well, do we have another 3 hours? Here,
Yeah, it's a big question.
I tell my guests, make sure that you just don't go over and over and over. Now I have to make sure I don't do this. I'm going to do this quickly because I got another question. Well, actually, two more. So, yeah, when I was, I'm going to say maybe 40 years ago, I wasn't as outspoken as I am now. And I was friends with someone, and for whatever reason, she didn't call me back. And every time I called her and I said, listen, I need to know what's going on. Nothing. Finally, 3 years later, she tells me something that my husband never invited her husband. This is so shallow. You like deep conversations, to a golf outing at a home we used to own and up north in Michigan. And that's when it dawned on me. How can I be friends with someone who just doesn't know how to have those deep, honest conversations? And Jeff, I started thinking of so many other conversations like that. And I said, I want to become that voice. I want to teach other people so they know how to deal with the silent kind. I don't mean the shy ones. I mean the ones who just don't want to tell the truth. So that, and then I probably 100 other incidents like that. And the more and more and more I did this, the more confident. Talk about empathy. And as a result of that, when I work with coaching clients, either individuals or group, I hold their hand because it is tough. It is a new experience. I went through it. So I can't be empathetic, and go sue me if you want, because I'm using that word.
Oh, you're
so
fine.
Thank you for that. So as a result of that, look who I am, Queen of Conflict Resolution. And then the last one, okay, put on your thinking cap. Visualize yourself as an 18-year-old Jeff Cox. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
That's tough.
Good.
And I think every time I answer this question, it's literally something different. But I honestly think that one of the things that I would tell my 18-year-old self is, as cliche as it sounds, is just to trust the process. I think that I, in my life, have been too quick to want to rush to the ending of things. And I think that we always want to rush to what's going to be good, or we want to rush to, the climax or the end point of the story. But we learn a lot about ourselves along the way. And I've had a lot of failure and I've made a lot of mistakes since I was 18. And I think there are times where I hold my head over over those things because I'm like, well, why did I do that? But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't know what I know today, and I wouldn't be having the conversations or, you know, having deeper conversations with people about, you know, some of the mistakes I made to help them not make those same mistakes. So I think it really is kind of just that trust the process, because we may be in a tough spot, but that doesn't mean we're going to be in that tough spot forever.
Oh God. When you go on social media, say what you just said. When you're in a tough spot, that doesn't mean we're going to be in that tough spot forever. The thing is, and this is what I challenge, and I'm not challenging you because you don't get it, but I'm always challenging people. If you're in that tough spot, how can you get out? You won't see, and this is exactly what you were saying. At 18, you didn't see that maybe there's going to be an opportunity. There's always an opportunity from a tough stop place. There's always an opportunity when we fail. Always. And people can argue. I can argue with you. Not you and me, don't worry. But you're speaking to me, and I'm with you. Well, Jeff, the next question is actually, it's the last question. I cannot believe how fast this went. Will you come back as a guest?
I would absolutely. I think like you and I have talked about, you know, before this. I just think there's just like so many interesting and niche things that happen in different realms and like different like career areas, or however you want to describe that, industries, I guess, that, you know, it's all relatable and transferable, but it's not always the same. And so if you approach something in one industry, doesn't mean you're going to approach it in the next.
Correct.
And so I think it's interesting to have and talk about that. And I have a lot to say. So
Great.
Obviously I like to talk. So here I am.
Yeah, you like to talk, but you don't go on and on and on. I haven't had to ask you, okay, good point. Let's go to the next question. Oh, I do that a lot. So first of all, you are on your profile, you said looking for work on your picture.
Yep.
Briefly tell us what you're looking for and how people, here they can see how they can reach you on LinkedIn, what you're looking for. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, I think the biggest thing that I've realized is I am not necessarily a desk, like contained to a desk type of person. I want to get out and talk to people. So I really am kind of just looking for something in the realm of like leadership development, training and development. I think that's really where I thrive. And, you know, working with students and staff and, you know, just different individuals throughout the years, that's kind of just where my strong suit has been. And plus it gives me an opportunity just to, again, hear their stories, see what they're bringing to that training session or to that space, and really just building off of that. Because one of the things that I've learned is, you know, you can't assume everyone's at the same stage as the person next to them. And so building that foundation and that rapport, again, going back to the empathetic leader is very important in that realm as well.
Well, I'm wishing you the best.
Thank you.
It's not luck, because you're out there looking, you have the skills. It's just a matter of you finding the right and having them find the right person. So it's a match. So thank you. This has been a wonderful interview, and I'm not going to say goodbye because we're going to do this again.
Yeah.
And you're a wonderful guest. So thank you
so much.
Thank you. So I hope that you enjoyed the interview with Jeff as much as I did. He has so much to offer, and I wasn't sure where that came from, and I'm so glad he told us. So I'm going to have all kinds of places that you can connect with me. My email, call me, LinkedIn, YouTube. YouTube, you're going to find over 220 videos. Some of them are short, some of them are longer, on either interviews like this with thought-provoking leaders, communication strategies, conflict resolution strategies, more information about me. I talk about my own personal stories. And if you're interested in either personal coaching or group coaching, and you want to improve relations and reduce stress, that's what I'm all about. And I would really love to work with you on that. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. Love to see you there. And until next time, this is Joyce Weiss, and I'm going to end like I do most of my videos. Remember, you get what you tolerate. Thanks so much for watching.